And I'm back. Welcome to the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I'm Grumpy Dungeon Master Jay. I'm here with a special guest, Christopher Waples.
Hey, goddammit. I'm barely here as it is.
Yeah, no, well, welcome back. I'm glad you enjoyed your 3 weeks of vacation.
It should have been 4.
It almost was. It almost was.
Yeah. It's been a rough couple weeks.
Yeah. So everybody who's listening, bear with us. Chris is meted up. He's got strep throat or something. I don't know.
Well, the daughter has confirmed strep throat, and I'm pretty sure I caught what she had. So
yeah, if she's got confirmed strep, then you've definitely got strep.
So yeah, I'm just working through that as it goes.
But we'll manage.
I'll manage.
I got plenty of topics, and I'll talk a lot. I normally do anyway.
Well, it's also been 3 weeks, and I've been sitting on a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, geez, we're going way back. A lot of it. Well, I hope you've listened to the podcast because me and Mike probably talked about some of it.
You have none of the stuff that I was going to talk about, or stuff that you guys even slightly touched.
Okay? Oh, okay.
So first off, I was driving home from the doctor's office today, and because I'm sick, and I was like, okay, so I have strep throat. It's a bacterial infection. Okay. Would cure disease work on it?
Well, do we want to get super technical on this?
Well, yeah, get super technical on it.
All right, hold on.
It's a bacterial infection. Okay. Constitution saving throw at very least.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the actual wording of remove disease.
Right.
So remove disease from 5th edition. Hold on, let me make sure that's the that's the wrong one. Come on, 5e, where the fuck are you?
Where are you, 5e? Where are you?
There, okay. It's called cure disease nowadays. That's why I wasn't finding it right away. When cast, you select a target at which point they are cured of a disease. If multiple, it's randomly selected which one is removed and cured. No, that's a homebrew thing. Where the fuck is the actual one? Well, let me start with cure disease. I'm failing at the internet right now.
Oh, yeah, you are.
I'm about to get up and go get my fucking player's handbook.
You should just use D&D Beyond like the rest of us do.
D&D Beyond. That should have been the first one that popped up. There is no cure disease spell. That's why it's not popping up. There is only lesser restoration. All right. What about greater restoration?
What the hell was I thinking of?
I don't know.
Well, it's a paladin thing, right?
Maybe.
Where they just touch you and they cure you of all diseases?
Let's see. Paladin, remove disease. Nope, that's for Paizo. What happens if I use lay on hands to cure 1 disease? I really want the actual wording of this. Let me just pull up Paladin.
Right. Alternatively, you can expend 5 hit points of your pool of healing to cure a target of 1 disease or neutralize 1 poison affecting it. It's part of lay on hands.
All right.
You can cure multiple diseases and neutralize multiple poisons with a single use of lay on hands, expending hit points separately for each one. Now, I thought there was a cleric.
I thought so too, but I guess that's just restoration. Because there's lesser restoration. I'm pretty sure there's a greater restoration as well.
So they lumped it under that then?
Yeah, all right. So is strep throat a disease? Because the word disease is okay. The very first thing pops up is strep throat is a disease.
Okay. So lesser restoration cures either 1 disease or condition affecting it. The condition can be blinded, deafened, paralyzed, or poisoned.
Yeah, which is not disease. So.
Okay. Well, it can cure 1 disease or 1 condition. Those conditions being
I got it.
Blinding, deafened, paralyzed, or poisoned. So it counts as strep throat as being a disease, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I was kind of just mulling over in my mind as I was driving home from the doctor's. Like, maybe this is why like sicknesses and cold and stuff just don't exist in the Faerun, unless they're a big pandemic. It's because you have these clerics everywhere and paladins everywhere just curing diseases of everybody. There's some paladins like, all right, I got 25 lay on hands hit pool, give me 3 gold, and I'll cure diseases. I got 5 people in me, and then we'll swap out for another person. And there's people just being cured all the time because you hardly ever see it in any of the official write-ups or anything like that where a disease is afflicting a lot of people. There's some sick kid with the disease that needs to be cured because lesser restoration just immediately cures it. And so in my mind,
it's an edition thing, by the way. 5e, you don't see it. Earlier editions, there were plenty of fucking diseases.
Well, then my mind immediately went to is like, so if I had alcoholism,
it is technically not a disease.
But they classify it as a disease.
No, it is technically not a disease. You would have to look up the actual definition of the word disease. And I assure you, alcoholism and drug abuse does not fall under that.
I'm pretty sure.
All right, hold on. Disease definition. Jesus, now we're really getting into the fucking weeds. A disorder of structure or function in a human, animal, or plant, especially one that has a known cause and a distinctive group of symptoms, signs, or anatomical changes. I mean, to be fair, they also change the definition of shit constantly.
Yeah, and that was the kind of issue, is that when we grew up, alcoholism was classified as a disease. I guess now it's considered a disorder to make it a difference.
But at the same time, I look under Merriam-Webster, and they have heart disease as one of the things. Even though it's not the same kind of disease, you can't. Right. Like the Paladin couldn't cure somebody's fucking heart disease.
Well, couldn't it? I mean, so according to this, alcohol and drug addiction, also known as a substance use disorder, is a chronic disease of the brain that can happen to anyone. So eventually you disease your brain by overusing alcohol and drugs. You give yourself a disease by these poisons.
Yeah.
So could you then, in turn, use lay on hands, unless registration, to cure someone of their drug and alcohol addictions?
Addiction, no, because it in the definition you just read, it said it's a disorder. But the damage, right? The disease portion of it, you probably could.
Okay.
Now, mind you, they're just going to go right back to drinking because they have that disorder.
Right. So basically, all the sailors just complete alcoholics. Brain damage. Go see a paladin. Fix the brain damage. Still alcoholics.
Yeah, exactly.
So did you and Mike talk about this while I was gone?
No, well, to be fair, that one I'm sure just popped up today because you just got sick yesterday.
That's true. So actually, moving on past that little fun thought, that's just how my brain works. Everything's related to D&D.
It's a good opener. Well, I mean, if you want to talk D&D related, we should talk about pro wrestling.
We'll get there. Get there.
You know where I'm going with this.
So before I left on my vacation time.
Yeah, 6 months ago.
6,500 years ago. I discovered that Goodwill has an auction website.
Yes.
And I could bid on D&D product that they got donated to them. And pretty much I bid on a bunch of stuff before I left. And I was pretty much outbid on everything except for one thing that no one seemed to want. Okay. And what it is a box set of Dungeons and Dragons, the basic game. All right. Now, looking at the artwork and everything on here, I believe this was around 3rd edition.
If you show me the art, I can almost certainly tell you what edition.
The logo is the 3rd edition logo. I know that for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd still like to see which one you're talking about.
Well, you can just Google
that's not going to work.
Basic game.
That won't work, I assure you. It's going to pull up everything.
Oh, you'll see it. Trying to see if I can find the when it was made. This was a product of 2004. So yeah, beginning of 3rd edition.
Okay, did it have a blue dragon on the cover?
Yeah, it's a black dragon.
Okay, well that's not the right art. Okay.
It's got
I
a
think I
knight, a
found
black
it.
dragon. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it literally the other one I just saw with the blue dragon has the exact same knight on it, just on the other side.
So I picked this up just because I wanted the 16 miniatures that came with it, but I was also interested to see what the rules were. So the rules, I believe, are kind of like we have those board games.
Oh, this
that
is
are like
a fucking board game.
Right. We have those board games that are like 4th edition, but just board games. Well, this is 3rd edition, but the board game.
Yeah. Okay.
And I kind of went through and looked at it, and nothing's really different. It's just the most basic rules for putting minis on a board and having people attack each other.
Yeah.
One cool thing to note is that everything in here is considered like a medium creature, even if it's not. And I actually have a couple of these minis already. But like for example, the young black dragon that they have is on a miniature.
Yeah, base. I see it's on the medium-sized base. That's lovely.
Which is really creepy.
To be fair, if it's a young dragon, it's probably medium-sized.
No, they're large.
Earlier editions, you definitely could have. So 3rd edition, that's probably accurate.
Yeah. They have one below young now. I can't remember what the name is.
Toddler.
But like even the rats are like these massive rats, huge freaking dog-sized rats.
Yeah, ROUSs.
And they had a bunch of cool character sheets with them and everything. Basically show you how to roll a dice and all that. Like the most weirdest character setups too. The one thing that kind of stood out to me when I was looking at these character sheets was the halfling rogue named Lydia.
Oh yeah. Everyone from 3rd edition knows Lydia.
Oh, okay. So she has an initiative of 17. I guess that's just a base number in 3rd edition.
No, they probably rolled the stats.
Well, I mean, it just says initiative 17.
Oh, that's weird. No,
there's no roll. It's just her initiative is 17.
Yeah, that's not how that works.
Okay. Well, she's armor class of 16, 7 hit points, and a speed of 4. So I'm guessing that's like 20 feet.
That's not how that works either. But okay.
Her rapier, attack is a D20 plus 1 with D4 damage.
Okay.
Her short bow is a D20 plus 4 for also D4 damage.
So they weren't using the rapier as an agile weapon.
Right, so the rapier wasn't an agile weapon, but her strength is only 10, so it's got a plus 0. So I don't know where the plus 1 comes from.
It's probably just a plus 1 modifier for being 1st level, I'd guess, but I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, none of the math you just threw at me is cohesive with 3rd edition.
Fair enough. So it does make sense too if there's a plus 1 modifier for 1st level, because dexterity is a 17 for a plus 3 bonus, and she has a plus 4 with her short bow. Yeah. I just found it weird that the rapier wasn't a dexterity weapon. It was considered a strength weapon.
Because it's definitely a dexterity weapon in 3rd edition.
Yeah, okay. So she has 3 saving throws, Fortitude, Reflex, and Will, which I believe is...
That's accurate.
In line with 3rd edition.
Yes.
And I think 4th kind of followed that. It's definitely...
And Dungeon Crawl Classics uses it also.
Yeah. I don't mind those 3 as being the 3 saving throws that everything is made against, I think 5e's kind of wonky that way.
Yeah. It covers all of the bases for the most part.
Yeah. Your mind, your how well you can dodge and how well you can resist something.
Yeah, like you could potentially have like a strength save to not be knocked over or something, knocked prone, but that's really about the only other type of save that's necessary.
In 4th edition, every stat had its own save.
Yeah,
well, actually, there wasn't a save. You basically rolled to hit every stat, essentially.
Okay.
So, like, if someone had
a strength 10, your AC or your
you would want to use an attack that focused on somebody's strength versus an attack that focused on their dexterity.
Yeah.
And there was varied amounts of each of those, but I like the reflex, will, and fortitude saves. And then for skills, there's diplomacy, disable device, hide, listen, move silently, open lock, search, and spot.
Okay. Yeah, no, those it's been a while since I've done 3rd, but that sounds accurate. There's more skills than that, but that's a portion of them.
I really find it weird that move silently and hide are two different things. I guess it kind of makes sense, but it just feels too granular in my opinion.
While it actively makes more sense than 5e, what does 5e have? Just stealth or some shit like that?
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, like it makes more sense than that, but I'm sure that they came up with the realization that then you're just having to make multiple fucking rolls to do shit. So it's not cohesive. It's not conducive to quicker role playing.
Yeah. So that's basically all. They have basic characters and everything, and I kind of like browse the rules for a little bit. If you played one of the 4E games, it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, a monster spawns every time you discover a new room, and it's one of these monsters depending on the location. So
right, and you pull a random encounter that screws you over 95% of the time.
There's no random encounters in this one.
Oh, okay.
It's all set in the book, in the story.
Okay.
Now, the most interesting thing that I got in this box, okay, and I'm not going to read through everything, but whoever owned this before, well, I know who owned this before. It was a man named David Carrick. And that's all the information I'm going to give.
David, if you are out there as a listener, we thank you for your patronage.
So, how do I know that David Carrick owned this before I do? Because I have an application for his employment right here in my hand.
Oh, no.
He applied to some kind of ranch in Arizona. I have his date of birth, his social security number, his college.
Was it the Skinwalker Ranch?
No.
Did he come up missing after being kidnapped by aliens in the 2000s?
It was the Tanqui Verde Ranch.
I wasn't really expecting you to say the name of that, but okay.
That's whatever that ranch is. But yeah, I have all of his PII essentially. His social security number, date of birth, driver's license.
You should definitely get rid of all that.
I want David to know that as a security professional in my professional work, I will dispose of this so no one will be able to find it. But just as a reminder out there to our listening audience, you do not know where documentation that you have will end up if you do not take care of it. Yep. And this is something from 2004.
Yeah, so 20 years later,
yeah,
it's now in the hands of somebody all the way across the nation.
Right.
Because you left it in a book.
Because you left it in a box again, yeah. And it could have been like literally anyone that got that, you know.
Yeah.
Someone little, less scrupulous than me, getting this. Like dang, So yeah. Be careful with your guys' documentation out there. I cannot stress it enough. You can't leave documentation with your social security number, driver's license, date of birth, mother's maiden name, and all that shit out there, and not expect to be the victim of something in the future. But I will dispose of this now.
Yeah, when you said that you knew who the book belonged to or that it belonged to, I just assumed you meant, they wrote their name in the front cover like a lot of people do. Like my name is in the front of most of the role-playing books that I own, or at least a good portion of them. That's what I was expecting. Not that, he just left a resume in the thing for 20-something years.
Yeah, it was buried at the very bottom, too, so even if they didn't open up to look at it, could have been easily missed.
Sure.
It wasn't like it was on top or anything, but...
Yeah, it had got thrown in there with whatever papers and stuff and made its way to the bottom all those years later. Good times. So since I mentioned DCC earlier, I wanted to mention the fact that they have a new I was going to say Kickstarter, but technically it's a Backerkit out. I don't know why. There's reasons I'm sure for why people use Backerkit over Kickstarter, and honestly, it's probably better. But everybody still says Kickstarter,
Yeah,
it's like Google. Yeah. You just can't help it. But they have a new one, Adventures on the Purple Planet and Beyond. And I haven't backed it yet, but man, I think there's another week and a half or 2 weeks or something to go. So I probably will before then. So it's a new setting, Adventures on the Purple Planet and Beyond. And then they're also re-releasing some of their old stuff that hadn't been out in a long, long time. Which got me to sort of digging through some of the stuff they actually have for sale on their website. And I came across, have you ever heard of Lankhmar?
No.
Lankhmar. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people have, but for whatever reason, that name had always sort of stuck with me, and I didn't know why. So I got to doing more research on it, and Lankhmar was one of the precursors, apparently, to original Dungeons and Dragons. I think there was a actual Dungeons and Dragons Lankhmar setting. Let's see. Lankhmar City of Adventure. Yeah, it is an accessory for the D&D role-playing game published in 1985. But apparently DCC has the rights to this. And Lankhmar is actually a city from novels in the 1960s written by Fritz Leiber, which is freaking hilarious to me because I actually found a collection of those novels that I bought at a thrift store literally 2 days before this thing went on to Backerkit. So it's like everything just hit all of a sudden for me to want to find out more about this setting. Just one of those weird little incidents. But if you've ever heard of the Gray Mouser, that was another one that was sort of in my head, but I didn't know why. But Fritz Leiber wrote about the Gray Mouser in the city of Lankhmar. It's sort of Conan-esque. Everybody's a bunch of rogues, and it's a whole bunch of thieves guilds sort of battling it out over the city, from my understanding. Cool. And and apparently that's what the setting is. But they also have a setting for Jack Vance stuff, which I know you're interested in, at least.
At least reading the books, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't mean in the DCC, but just in general. One of his settings, the Dying Earth stuff, which is what we've talked about it on here before.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, I came across several of his books in the past week or two as well that I picked up.
Me want to read.
Well, you are more likely to just buy the Jack Vance collection of Dying Earth and read that. These are individual novels that aren't even related to Dying Earth, as far as I can tell. But it's just weird in my area. I never, I've talked about it before. I'd never seen Jack Vance stuff ever. I've never come across Fritz Leiber, even though I wasn't really looking for it, but that name would have stood out to me. Like, I see 1960s novels, these shitty sci-fi or fantasy novels sitting on a shelf, and it stands out to me. I've never seen them until just the last couple of weeks. I guess some people from that era died, and their collections ended up at these bookstores.
Yeah, I think we're reaching that point where everyone from the 70s and 80s who were an adult are just dying off now so we can get their stuff.
Yeah, kind of sucks. Janelle Jaquays also died. She is an artist who'd done a lot of art for Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition.
Yeah, did you talk about that at all?
No, this just happened a couple days ago.
No, it happened a little while ago, but...
Oh, did it? Well, okay, it just popped up in my newsfeed 2 days ago.
And actually, that was one of the topics I wanted to talk about.
Oh, okay. Well, fancy that.
Finish your thing first.
Well, that was basically it. But yeah, if anybody likes Dungeon Crawl Classics, absolutely go check out the Backerkit. You got a little while, and they're selling all sorts of stuff during this thing. The Purple Planet is what it's specifically for, but they're also lumping together a whole bunch of their old stuff from Lankhmar and some of the other ones that haven't been released in a long time.
Okay, that's cool.
Yep. So moving on.
To the sad passing of Janelle Jaquays. I didn't know. I because of just my tenure in this hobby, I don't know anyone's name. I mean, I know Chris Perkins and Jerry Crawford because they've been around since 4th edition.
Mm-hmm.
But anyone older than that, it's kind of hard for me to know unless you're like Gary Gygax
or Ed Greenwood or somebody of that.
Well, even Ed Greenwood, I didn't know until recently.
Yeah.
And
that's it. I want to say it's sad, but I understand it. Here I am talking about finding out who Fritz Leiber and Jack Vance and all of these people are. So I understand.
Yeah. So when I first learned about her passing, it was because there was a bit of drama surrounding someone who released a book, and he basically kind of gave her a lot of credit for quote unquote the term "jaquaying the dungeon," which I guess she when she started writing modules on top of writing it and doing her art, she developed a system where dungeons would have multiple entrances, which hadn't been done before. Something as simple as that just hadn't been done before.
Sure, yeah.
So she kind of developed this style of jaquaying the dungeon, where you could give the adventuring party multiple ways of approaching a situation and then going on from there.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find what work that was. Of course, I've lost everything.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, but I do have a number of the ones she had done. She was responsible for the Dark Tower, Griffin Mountain, War Games. Mind you, some of these are video games as well. But she was a level designer for Castle Greyhawk module.
Yeah, I was that one and something else that she basically revolutionized just by having multiple entrances into the dungeon.
Yeah. And it doesn't sound like much, but somebody has to do that kind of stuff first.
Right. So there was a bit of drama where an author basically tried to take over the term jaquaying a dungeon and creating it basically based off of him, whereas like Alexandrian the dungeon.
Okay.
And I'm not really, because he had a number of articles out there basically talking about what jaquaying the dungeon was and how it worked. And then he published a book where he mentioned it, but he took out jaquaying the dungeon and replaced it with Alexandrian dungeon because he didn't want her to be offended or something along those lines. But the book got released pretty much the day she died.
Oh,
so
no.
She could not take any like legal recourse and saying, hey, you basically stole something that I did on my term, and you just kind of took that from me.
Pretty sure there's no legal recourse on stuff like that anyway.
No. But what made the only reason I brought this up is because what he did is he went back to his previous blogs on his websites and took down all the references he's ever made to Janelle Jaquay and replaced it with his name. Okay.
Wow. Fucking ego there. All right.
And it was pretty rough, and that's kind of a crappy thing to do. I guess he's kind of when people found this out, he kind of went back and undid that a little bit. But still, it's like, don't do that.
Yeah, like, look at me, and if you want to call it Alexandering a dungeon, fucking go for it. But yeah, mind you, none of this really has any bearing to me because I had never heard either of those terms previously.
Exactly.
But
Thank you for introducing me to the term forever.
Yeah, but for the people who would have been in the know, they would have I'm sure they would have ignored it or shit talked it, which seems to be what's happened. And as it's almost a Streisand effect where things just they blow up when it's really just kind of a non-issue.
Yeah. I just thought that was interesting, and then like all of a sudden, like this week, her death is just being reported everywhere, and everyone's noticing it. I'm just like, okay, well, we lost a good one, and it's weird. It's kind of sad that we didn't know who they were to begin with.
Yeah, but there are so many people who are responsible for tabletop role playing games in general, and it's impossible to know all of them. Like we'll be having a conversation with Dan and Christian, and Dan will mention somebody who's was in the industry in the 70s that I've never even freaking heard of.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Gygax. For the most part, everybody knows Arneson. And once you get past those two, then it's kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
And no one's ever heard of the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. So
Yeah, pretty much. Just to clarify, it says that she passed on January 10th. So this did happen a month ago. And
it just kind of spreading out now near the end of the month.
Yeah, it's weird how the news works that way.
Sometimes, man, that's just how it goes.
Yep. So something else that is officially dead. Not to not to make a horrible segue.
What a segue, man! What a segue.
But apparently, the Dragonlance show of Joe Magniello is also dead upon arrival. Have you heard about this?
I tried to figure out why it was dead.
From what I could, so I actually watched the video of him talking about it, and he was having an interview with somebody. I don't know who the specific person was, but from everything he said, it leads me to believe that it was never actually a go. Like it's not dead on arrival. It just wasn't ever a thing. From what I could sort of parse from what he was saying, he had this script written up. He had a lot of ideas and thoughts and plans, and he seemed to be very sure that this was going to happen. And then when I guess when it got to that point of trying to make it happen, they just sort of, Wizards of the Coast just sort of shut it down. Now, there can be a lot of reasons for that, because you put somebody like him behind it, somebody who's that passionate. I think it's probably a good bet that it would have been really freaking good. But then you have to look at Hasbro's situation currently. Hasbro is up shit creek. Like, they really need to be selling off properties. They're going to be really lucky if they can cover their cost for the year. They laid off 1,700 people back in December.
Yeah.
November, December. So they're struggling. So I can absolutely understand why they would not want to, take a bet on a venture like making a television show like that. Because you start doing stuff like that, you're going to be throwing out millions of dollars. And hopefully you make a return on that investment. But Dungeons and Dragons, as far as the movie went, it only made a little money. And then there's the Dragonlance property in general. The board game never sold at all. Like, it was just horrible. It was so bad it ended up in Ollie's at $3 a board or $5 a board game.
Right.
The setting they released for it, the books, those were literally some of the worst selling ones they've ever produced. So yeah, I could see them not wanting to take a gamble on that.
And what little I read of the article, he wanted it to be something very like Game of Thrones-esque with a lot of political intrigue and whatnot.
Yes.
And
that's Dragonlance, yeah.
Yeah, it's Dragonlance. But, like, Game of Thrones ended so poorly that genre will take a couple of decades to recover from. Nobody wants to become invested in a show like that anymore to have that pitiful of a payoff. And you can kind of see that with the other Game of Thrones shows they put out, other TV dramas that they put out that just kind of aren't getting. Like, I sat down while I was sick, and I watched
House of the Dragon did really well, from my understanding.
You got to understand, doing well and doing Game of Thrones well are two different leagues. Okay? Game of Thrones was so popular in the cultural mythos of the 2000s and 10s that it basically, there are tons of girls being, named whatever it was, Khaleesi or whatever.
Yeah, Khaleesi or Daenerys, shit like that.
It was so ingrained. So yeah, you still can have shows that do well. Like, I watched Yellowstone. Yellowstone was a nice, big family drama show, and it was good, but it won't ever be good enough to be Game of Thrones level. And that's what everybody wants.
Very, very few shows will ever be of that.
Right. But it's just, they ruined drama like that for a long time. Like, I'm sitting here watching Yellowstone, and I'm waiting. Okay, well, this main character's about to die. They didn't? That's weird. They would have died in Game of Thrones.
To be fair, 90% of the people in Game of Thrones died off, you know?
Yeah, until like the last couple seasons.
And then they all just died in the last episode.
So it's going to take a while before you can do a big political fantasy genre show. And as much as I think Dragonlance could probably work, you look at the Lord of the Rings show and its failure.
Yeah, but they wrote a piece of shit show, let's be honest.
You look at Wheel of Time and it's
same deal.
Failure. And then you're going, here's a D&D property.
You know what didn't fail initially was The Witcher. Because the first season of The Witcher was actually very well done and well written.
I hated the first season of The Witcher.
Well, yeah, but you hate everything.
No, I don't hate everything. The first season of The Witcher was confusing and weird.
Okay, so you are the single human being on the planet who hated the first season of The Witcher. Everybody else really fucking loved it. Now,
they loved Henry Cavill and were willing to basically give it a massive pass. But that whole bullshit, like, this part of the episode's in the past and this part is in the future, but we're not telling you that shit.
Yeah, no, I didn't have any problems.
It was fucking terrible.
That's your opinion. Anyway, the first season of The Witcher fucking killed it. The other season, of The Witcher definitely went downhill after that. And I don't know. I don't know if there will be another season of The Witcher. We'll see. I know there's going to be, but I don't think it's going to do well, and that's probably the last Witcher you're ever going to get.
The last thing I read on The Witcher was the girl that got to play the love interest, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
How, like, in the books and in the TV series, she's supposed to be like the most beautiful woman that's ever existed.
Okay.
With purple eyes.
All right.
And then the casting director going, we wanted to buck that norm and hire someone that was more homely looking for the role.
Okay, I mean, I've seen that girl. She ain't very homely.
Right. I mean, just like, so you went out of your way to hire a quote unquote ugly girl who's not that ugly, but then made her ugly and treated her as ugly, and now she's having, like, problems acting because you keep calling her ugly. She's not. Like, would it be dicks?
Fucking
Witcher.
Fucking Hollywood.
No wonder Henry Cavill left.
Yeah, no shit. But hey, he gets to do Warhammer, hopefully. We will see.
So it's a big political drama, but it's not in fantasy, it's in space.
Yeah. I know Shayna Baszler was hoping to play one of the characters. I don't know if you know Shayna Baszler, the wrestler, or not, but apparently she's a huge Warhammer fan as well.
I watched Twisted Metal that had Samoa Joe in it. That was
who never actually got to speak.
Huh.
Yeah, that was not his voice.
It was Will Arnett.
Oh, is that who? I didn't know who it was. I just knew it wasn't Samoa Joe. Well, fuck, we're on wrestling. Let's go ahead and talk shop real quick. And everybody's wondering, why the fuck would you talk about wrestling on a D&D podcast? Because it's somewhat relevant. And
story
honestly,
design.
Yeah, because of story design. And honestly, it's pulling a swerve, which DMs sometimes have to learn how to do. Especially if you like to railroad your players and then they say no, then you have to come up with shit. So I'm going to throw some names out here for people who are not wrestling fans, just to sort of get the story across as to what's been happening. There's the heavyweight champion of the world is Roman Reigns. He has been the dominant champion for over 3 years now. You can fucking tell this story, or we can just move on.
No, Roman Reigns being champion for 3 years. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
What happened? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Either way, well, hey, look, they spent a lot of time telling his story. Initially, I hated it, but they got it over. It took a while.
Yes, you throw enough money, enough bodies, and enough time at something, eventually it'll be somewhat, kind of, almost acceptable to the general public.
So anyway,
talking about a fucking yacht they're just throwing money into and trying it. It's just sinking into the harbor faster and faster.
I guess, even though
at least he can talk on the mic now. It only took 3 years.
Yeah, he was terrible on the mic initially. Now he's gotten really good at it. I'm trying to keep us on subject here. It's a lot of story that I've got to go through.
All right, go ahead.
So Roman Reigns, dominant heavyweight champion, been that way for over 3 years. Last year, Cody Rhodes, who is the son of Dusty Rhodes, who freaking everybody's heard of at least, wins the Royal Rumble. That means that he gets to verse Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Last year, he versus Roman Reigns. Everybody thought he was going to win the title, and he loses. So now you have another year to build the storyline with Cody Rhodes. And he ends up going to Royal Rumble again a month ago and wins the Royal Rumble 2 years in a row. That means he gets to verse Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. So a week or so after winning Royal Rumble, he comes out and he announces that he's not planning to verse Roman Reigns at Royal Rumble, but instead The Rock, the famous ass movie star, is going to verse Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. The Rock comes out. Initially, the fans are surprised. Everybody's cheering, and then people had more time to think about it and parse through it, and it sort of hits the internet fan base that no, Cody's getting screwed. Fuck this. So the fans online and at the shows were sort of revolting against this idea of The Rock versus Roman Reigns.
But you got to mention why The Rock was even brought up.
I wasn't even going to go into all of that.
It's quite needed. You can get the cliff notes. I'll get the cliff notes.
Yeah, go
Vince
for it.
McMahon kicked out of WWE permanently. Rock bullies his way as the head of the board of the WWE.
He's not the head. He's a board member.
A board member, whatever. And The Rock, given his long history of basically bogarting his way into situations he doesn't belong, is like, I'm going to start wrestling again. Oh, WrestleMania's coming up? I'm going to headline that shit.
See,
you can't tell me no.
That is debatable as to the exact reasoning. It is. Nobody knows.
Kevin Hart's going to be there. Yeah, everything's fine.
Oh, look, I have no doubt that The Rock had some pull and some sway. I don't know that Cody was really getting screwed, but this is a conversation that's not relevant to D&D. So the fans start revolting against the idea of The Rock versus Roman Reigns because they feel that their hero, Cody Rhodes, is getting screwed out of his his opportunity to win the title. And they revolted so much against it that WWE actually had to pull a bit of a swerve and change up their WrestleMania plans. And let me tell you, I've been watching wrestling my whole life. They have never changed their WrestleMania plans. And a lot of that is probably because Vince McMahon would have just told the fans to fuck off and done it anyway, but he's not there anymore. So they had a press conference, and I say that in quotations, where you have Roman Reigns and The Rock come out to sort of face off and do a little press thing for the upcoming WrestleMania. And during that, they have The Rock start talking about how him and Roman are family, they're related, and they actually pulled up the family tree, which by the way is fake, just for anyone who doesn't know. They pull up the family tree, and after a few minutes, Cody Rhodes comes out and says, no, this is bullshit. And like he was stepping aside so The Rock could come in, beat Roman Reigns' ass at WrestleMania. And then he decides to go ahead and face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania instead of The Rock. But anyway, how is all that relevant to D&D? It's the fact that they had literally spent a year building Cody. They decided not to go with that. Then they pull a last-minute swerve when people start revolting against it to get it back on track. And right now, WWE is hotter than it's been in years, specifically because of that. So as a DM, you need to be able to pull a swerve sometimes. If your players are not going along with what you have planned, just mix it up. Do something different. Or if they revolt against your change, then go back to what you were going to do initially.
So the most recent thing that happened for me with that is it's been hard for me to get the D&D game stream running for a while now. So
well, you've been on vacation for weeks, and
and sick and all that
and
stuff.
the holidays before that. Yeah.
So it's been very sparse, but I had basically been slowly introducing them into the next stage of the campaign series, where the Zhentarim had pretty much taken over Waterdeep and pushed out the City Wotc, and just kind of like uncovering that mystery as to why they would do that and everything. And part of how they took power is they basically rounded up all the officers and the higher end folks in the City Wotc, branded them as being cultists from the previous session, and basically imprisoned all of them. So one of the NPCs they basically spent a lot of time with, a character named Seth, was one of those people rounded up, and he's basically the assistant of Barnabas. He's a retired City Wotc member, but basically the private eyes. So Barnabas sends word to the players like, "Hey, I need your help with something." They meet with Barnabas. Barnabas says, "Hey, I need you to go out to this prison. I need you to find Barnabas, rescue Barnabas, and bring him back." And I had planned 3 sessions of this conflict.
Okay.
The players get to where the prison is. They do a little bit of spying. Okay. And then they go, "Fuck this, we're not doing that." So I'm like, well, okay. And I always have in my back pocket like something else that they can do in place of the main story.
If you're streaming, you've got to have a plan. You got to have shit in your back pocket.
Yeah, and I would advise always have something that's in the back pocket, even if it's just enough to fill that session till the end.
Yep.
And that's it. Them getting lost in a hallway, or with Waterdeep, you could turn down the wrong alley and be in the middle of a dungeon.
Yeah, very easily.
So they go, okay, well, let's put a pause on the prison break for now, and let's go reestablish ourselves since we just got back into the city, and maybe see what else we can find. So the one player that has Zhentarim contacts goes to his Zhentarim contacts and attempts to get them to acquire papers of prison transfer, or at least copies of them, so they can basically forge them or use them to help them get into the prison. Which wouldn't have been a bad idea if I hadn't already set aside in my head and on my plot notes that they can't do anything with the Zhentarim Guild without suffering the wrath of the Zhentarim Guild, because the Zhentarim really don't know that they're back in town yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the fact that he goes to an NPC that is his contact and says, "Hey, I'm back. I need help with this thing." And if he had just would have gone to his office first and foremost, he would have got the warning letter from his previous main contact saying, "Hey, don't trust anyone in the Zhentarim. They're not going to help you." If he would have gone to his office first, the subsequent Zhentarim showing up in full force to his front door with the BBEGs, the NPC that he talked to, murdering the NPC that he talked to, and pretty much basically forcing them down a path that they do not want to go down at all, which is basically, "Hey, we got a suicide mission for you. Go kill the Xanathar Guild. Good luck. You have 10 days, we're going to kill everybody." And now, that was my kind of swerve, is that if anything bad happens, they were going to be sent towards the Xanathar Guild. And okay, use your resources up here, leave us alone. So now they're in a situation where they have to decide to either go out and fight the Xanathar Guild, which is going to be really, really hard, and the prize at the end of that is the Xanathar, which is a beholder.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck. Or it's the prison break and maybe chasing down Barnabas' side. Or they can basically do what they kind of were talking about, which is just leave town forever and never come back.
In which case, well, you still get to write modules for that.
Which I told them, is like, if you guys do that, that won't stop the story. And you don't always have to plan for that as a DM. In my case, there's an overarching big plan that they can basically go, you know what? Waterdeep is lost to the Zentarum. We're not going to try to save it. We are cutting our losses here and we're leaving. And we're going to handle this big giant green star that's in the sky and figure out what the fuck is going on up there. But they also made some interesting points too, which is something you kind of have to think of as a DM. There's a big giant green star in the sky. Why aren't other bigger, better, more named people handling that situation?
Or maybe they are, but nobody has the answer yet.
Right. So I have a couple of reasons as to why. Like you said, maybe they are. They don't have any answers. Nothing's going to basically get past Candlekeep when it comes to that situation. So obviously they're looking at it. You can watch a lot of Doctor Who too, and kind of basically see how they handle that situation, because every other season, Britain's being attacked and invaded by some giant alien force, and every Christmas in particular, some big bad from the Doctor's history comes out of the blue and invades whole London. One year it's the Daleks, the next it's the Cybermen, the next it's the Cybermen again, and then it's the Daleks again, and then it's the giant lizard people from Zordon 12. Like, how do people handle that and still, kind of get by their daily, everything? Well, they have a intelligence agency that kind of squashes it down a little bit. There's a lot of, press and misinformation that gets sent out as well, too.
Oh, yeah. I believe the term for that is, well, never mind. My brain can't think of the word for it. I started to say it, and then but misinformation, yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite monsters they have is one called the Silence. Okay? And the Silence, you don't remember that you saw this alien unless you're looking at it at all times. I think the term they use is perception filter. Not saying that's what they do, but that's something to think about too. Is like maybe there's just a perception filter that's being cast someplace that's causing people not to look in that direction, or ignore that as a normal thing. So the normal people aren't seeing it all, and only few of the bigger people are actually coming to terms with the big giant thing in the sky. And the gods in D&D really can't directly affect things. They can kind of only nudge people the right way. They have to use people as tools. So Elementor's probably out there right now trying to figure out how to solve the problem. At the same time, he's probably just like, oh well, whatever happens, happens,
Yeah.
Dritz doesn't give a shit. He's just up in Icewind Dale, But you have to think about all that too as a DM with all the story points you have. Is like, what is the base perception? How can you turn that to basically lead the way you want it to go? And then also keep your players happy, because if The Rock fought Roman Reigns, it would be the least watched WrestleMania in all of history.
That's
no one wants to
not
see that.
True.
I would never watch it.
I would, but I'm going to watch WrestleMania no matter what's going on with it.
Do I want to watch Cody fight Roman Reigns? No, not particularly.
Yeah, see? So it doesn't matter to you either way.
Do I want Goldust to wrestle Roman Reigns? Yes.
Hell yes.
But that won't happen.
No, because he works for the competition.
I don't think he does anymore.
Well, he was. So last topic that I wanted to cover, and it's one that you linked earlier, was the upcoming D&D release schedule.
D&D release, the official D&D release schedule, yes. Not the leaked one.
Yeah, not a leak. This is the real one, apparently. So there's 6 books coming this year. 6 books this year. There's 7 on the list. We get
it's a little. The article doesn't have everything. Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, what's in this article at least?
So the first thing coming out of note.
Do you want me to go ahead and say it, because I know you can't read that word?
No. So the first thing that's coming out is actually already out. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the Descent into the Lost Caverns of.
Go on.
It's a Stark this.
I I think it's Sajkanth.
Sajkanth.
I
So
think.
that's coming out at the end of March during GaryCon and PAX East.
Hmm.
Where they're coming out with basically a tournament-style variant of that module that Gary Gygax wrote for first edition.
Yeah.
So it's not like an official book release, but it's a release that people could just buy off of, I think, D&D Beyond and play. And I'm already thinking about hosting a tournament for it. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Okay.
All right. So that's the first thing that they're doing to start the celebration, the 50th anniversary celebration.
Yeah, let's keep that in mind. 50th
Yeah.
year anniversary here.
Yeah. I can't wait for the minis to come out that they're releasing. We already talked about that. I'm going to get that Gold Dragon ampersand miniature. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, me and Mike covered that a couple of weeks ago. I think, all the minis.
So for the official releases for this year, May 21st is Vecna, the Eve of Ruin. Yep. It should be Eye of Ruin.
I every time I see it, I think but no, it is Eve of Ruin.
So that is the capstone adventure for 5th edition. Because it takes place from levels 10 to 12 over every single major.
It's 10 to 20.
Yeah, sorry, I said 10 to 12, 10 to 20. It takes place all over major settings in 5e that 5e touch, so Forgotten Realms, Eberron, Ravenloft, Dragonlance, and Greyhawk. And you basically chase Vecna around those planes to try to stop him from becoming god of the multiverse. I am done with multiverse shit. Once Deadpool and Wolverine come out, I don't want to fucking see any more multiverse shit ever.
But
I know Secret Wars is gonna be
right. Yeah. They've already shown spoilers leading up to Secret Wars in the Deadpool trailer.
That's a pretty good actually one.
Yeah.
So that's the first official book release. The next book release is the making of original Dungeons and Dragons, which is just a Amazon.
1970 through 1976.
Yeah,
that's important.
It's just a coffee table book.
Yeah.
So it's not an actual book we're going to talk about or review at all. I may pick it up and read it because that's kind of what I wanted to read when I read the one that I bought before.
Out of every book that's on this list, that's the one I'm most interested in, but I still probably won't buy it because I don't really buy coffee table books.
Yeah,
but that's in June.
I like the one that talked about the release of 5e and its development, but it didn't go into the details that I really wanted about the development. Mm-hmm. Just and then they had the artwork. I don't care about that. I wanted more behind the scenes data.
Right. How did that process of getting that artwork work? They have to find the artist. How does that work? How did they get it into print? The whole ordeal.
So Vecna, Eve of Ruin being the capstone book, the last official 5e book before the 2024 re-release comes out, is Quest for the Infinite Staircase, which is a series of anthologies from level 1 to 13 that can possibly be rigged into one long story, but it's not written that way. It's kind of like Keys to the Golden Vault. I'm interested in this because it's really easy to run that for Adventures League.
Yep.
I like these books a lot, even though you hate them.
I don't hate them. I just don't have any use for
them. Where the Vecna book is you have to sit down and really play through this. This one's going to be fun to just go through. But the issue that I have is that Vecna Eve of Ruin would be really fun to play, especially on stream as a finale thing to 5e. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to have anything to run for Adventures League until July 16th officially. I was hoping everything is coming out in May so we could start teaching people how to play. So then the next three releases...
Not for a while.
Yeah. The next three releases are the Player's Handbook, the new DMG, and the Monster Manual in September, November, and February, respectively. They're done with the playtest. It's over completely. They fired everyone that makes books and all the artists and the book publishers, so I would assume that the books are probably good to go. I don't know why the books have been delayed 6 months from the original
because when you are going to mass market these things and put them into bookstores, those bookstores require at least a 6 to 9 month notice.
They should already have that notice.
No, that's why, and that's how that works. So if you want this thing to be in Barnes and Nobles, which I'm sure they do, then you've got to give them, basically the copy has to be done for 6 months before it ends up there.
Well, whatever. I think coming out in September is a really bad idea. I think people will have forgotten all of the stuff that they've been building up to, even though they keep screwing things up. And the fact that there's no other content coming out other than the Player's Handbook, the MG, and the Monster Manual to coincide with these book releases is really bad too.
Well, the Monster Manual doesn't even make it before the end of the year. Like, there's no Christmas Monster Manual. This shit comes out in February of next year. This is literally a year off.
The Monster Manual I can understand because Morning Canyons is pretty much the Monster Manual right now.
Yeah, but your best selling books for Dungeons and Dragons is always the Player's Handbook and the Monster Manual. Like, you really want that Monster Manual out before Christmas.
And there really needs to be a module to go with the Player's Handbook.
Couldn't hurt, I guess. But I'm sure they have
the one that came out with the first Player's Handbook.
There was no module with the first Player's Handbook. I bought the Player's Handbook the day it dropped. There was no module.
No, the starter set came out at the same time.
That's the starter set. That's not.
That's Fandelver. That's a level 1 through 5 adventure.
Yeah, but it came with the starters set, not with the Player's Handbook.
Well, whatever. There should be a starter set here. Well, if that's what you want to say, there needs to be something here using those fucking new player fucking choices, and there's not.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Like, if you're going to, you got a new big thing coming out, you want to draw in new players, you probably want that new beginners thing. So
the only thing I have for Adventures League is Quest for the Infinite Staircase for the next year.
In middle of the year, yeah.
Because I'm not running Eve of Ruin. Like,
not. I can't even imagine trying to run Eve of Ruin at a table with randos every week. Like, that would be the worst Adventures League ever. You'd spend an hour making a character for one of them.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Making a level 10 character is going to take a long time.
Yeah, and then they're not even going to understand what anything does because they're brand new in general. Like, obviously not all of them, but a lot of them are brand new.
And still, to this day, nothing is being said on the Adventures League Discord about what to do for next year. We'll see. Also new D&D merch, because that's all D&D brand is nowadays. Yes, Converse footwear and apparel, which I can't wear. Lego building sets, which I will never buy. And Pop-Tarts, which... they're Pop-Tarts, so can't complain.
I mean, yeah, it's fair. I don't eat Pop-Tarts, but hey, people do.
Yeah, I like Pop-Tarts. I don't know why my wife keeps buying unfrosted Pop-Tarts. Who the fuck eats unfrosted Pop-Tarts?
Are they going to put the Wotc label on there as the icing?
Oh, God, that'd be amazing.
And then what's going to happen is 30 years later, I'm going to go to an estate sale, and then there's going to be a box of unopened Dungeons and Dragons Pop-Tarts because people will collect those.
The amount of old Coke and Pepsi products.
Oh, it's insane.
And Ecto-Cooler, unopened Ecto-Cooler can, juice box, whatever. Ew.
Yeah, it's insane. I see that stuff all the time. Oddly enough, though, if you find old cereal boxes, they can be worth a lot of money. I've seen old Pokemon cereal boxes. It wasn't Pokemon brand, but it had, maybe it's cornflakes or some shit like that, but it had Pokemon on the box, and it sells for over $1,000.
Well, the old boxes of things can sell for a lot because movie studios need them. So they send people out just to buy that stuff in mass.
People collect them too. Like
but they're weird.
Yeah, like the Pokemon one. That's not movie studios. That's people who collect Pokemon.
There's a big rush. There was a big rush for old box products and stuff because movie studios needed it.
So, hey, folks, if you're ever out and you come across Pokemon or cereals from like the 1950s that are unopened, you should maybe buy them. They might be worth a lot of money.
They'll throw away the cereal and just replace it with fresh stuff. But
yeah, most of the time it's just cereal boxes. But sometimes you find them sealed with the cereal still in them. Just like what do you got? The Bootios?
Well, it's empty. It's just an empty box behind me.
Yeah.
That cereal was amazing, by the way. It was Apple Jacks with a hit of vanilla. It was really good.
That's something I have not had in a long time, is cereal.
Yeah, my wife bought me honeycomb for some reason. She's like, "Do you like honeycomb?" I was like, "Who doesn't?" You don't buy honeycomb unless you're really old or a child.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to Eve of Ruin. I'm looking forward to the Infinite Staircase, but that being the only two content releases aside from the new rules.
Yeah.
I don't understand why the new rules in this case are being released so far apart. I understand the release schedule for 4th to 5th, where it came out with the Player's Handbook Monster Manual DMG.
Yeah.
I understand that. I understand why they spread those things apart. But in this case, with these books that aren't a new edition and just, okay, it's been 10 years, here's the revamped rules, I don't know why they couldn't release all of those at the same month. Maybe there's back-end distribution or back-end development problems. They did lose 1,600 of their staff.
Right, yeah, they fired everybody. They might not be done.
Yeah. So, I really wish that release schedule was tightened up a bit, and they had actually released more content. Because I'm guessing, and it's just a stab in the dark, I'm guessing the VTT is going to come out somewhere after the Player's Handbook, but before the DMG.
My guess would be it comes out right around the same time. Oh, by the way, all of those books, or at least the Player's Handbook, DMG, Monster Manual, apparently you're able to get them online a week or two before the physical copies, which
that's been standard for a while now.
Yeah. So for which means you're going to buy them twice in that case.
Well, what they've been doing, which is really shitty, is you can do it right now. You can pre-order the Eye of Vecna, or the Eve of Ruin. Jesus, would make that problem. You can buy the physical book through Wotc right now, and it's $70. Normally, it's $10 off, and it should be $60. But inflation's kicking everybody's ass, and you get the physical book and you get the digital copy, and it comes out early. And so what I've been doing then is basically going to LSG and supporting them by buying the collector's copy through them. But I've heard rumors and read, musings on the internet that the collector's editions are going away.
Probably.
But I don't mind this. I don't mind buying the physical book and getting the digital copy at the same time. I like that. I like that a lot. I wish I could do it through the LSG. LGS. But I understand why they're doing it, because it makes them more money.
Yeah.
I also get early access, so I can get it on May 7th instead of whatever. We get the prequel adventure on D&D Beyond on April 16th, so that's cool. And we get the digital dice. We get 11 frames and 4 backdrops for all the character sheets on D&D Beyond. I feel that $70 price point is worth everything that I get here. I get the physical book, I get the digital copy, I get the prequel adventure, I get early access, and I get more digital goodies for D&D Beyond.
If you're getting all of that for $70, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because you're going to pay $60 for the hardcover book anyway. So effectively, you're getting all that other stuff for $10. That's fine, you know.
Yeah. So I like this. I really hope that they continue putting the collector's edition out for the LGS because I want to support my LGS.
Right.
I feel like they're just fucking over LGSs and just forgetting about.
They don't give a shit about them. They don't make enough money off the local gaming stores at this point. For me, like there's literally one book out of all of those that are coming out this year that I'll buy, and that's the Player's Handbook, specifically just because I'd like to. I need a copy at some point. You know, someday down the road, I'm sure I'll meet somebody who wants to either play some D&D or or I'll play in a game of D&D and I'll want that. But I don't care about the DM's guide. I sure as hell don't care about the modules, monster manual, or any of that stuff. But to be fair, I don't run 5e anymore.
I really hope that the DMG is improved. One thing Chris Perkins said in an interview a long time ago is that he really wanted to take a big crack at the DMG and make it something worth buying other than a shitty reference with some extra content.
I mean, the DMG in general has always been, here's some traps and here's some magic items. And that's what the DMG is for.
Yeah, the DMG this time for 5e had 2 class options that were like evil class options.
Yeah, that's always
magic items, traps, and random loot tables. And the section where it basically told you like I kind of want help what they did with 4, where they gave a campaign setting, and the DMG would be like the Forgotten Realms campaign setting book, plus how to run a game, how to make.
I'd rather them just release a Forgotten Realms campaign setting book. That'd be nice.
But they're not going to do that, are they? No, they're not.
Well, probably not because they don't like money. But
yeah,
it's weird. You know, these companies you could be making money and they just keep avoiding it for some reason. I don't know why or how.
Why are they doing Converse footwear? Why the most narrow shoe in existence?
Oh, people love Converse, man.
Yeah, I love having a really narrow, tiny foot too.
Well,
we all wear Converse together. Yay!
Yeah,
Want to go skateboarding later?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. I actually have a couple of skateboards here.
Fucking weeb.
And I don't actually have a pair of Converse here, but I do have a pair of Vans and some Nike low top canvas. But so yeah, I like Converse. I saw the ones that Luke Gygax released a couple months ago. Those are really nice.
Yeah, I wish I had a B with foot too.
Yeah, I wish I'd had $200 or so because that's what they were, like $150 or something. But
yeah, I bought sneakers for Disney. Cost me $250.
What? Well, to be fair, you can't wear normal size shoes. Yeah. That still sounds very expensive, though.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. No, sir.
No, I wouldn't have either.
All right, well, my throat's shot. I'm done.
Yep. Hey, we did it. We got through it. Good job. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Bye, Craig.